Have you ever wondered how computers read code? It might seem like magic, but in reality, it's a meticulous process called translation. This process is carried out by software programs known as compilers and interpreters. A compiler is like a translator, converting high-level programming languages, think Java or Python, into machine code. This is the language that the computer's central processing unit, or CPU, understands. But how does a compiler do this? It starts by dissecting the code into tokens, the smallest meaningful units of the language. Then it organizes these tokens into a syntax tree, a representation of the code's structure. Finally, it turns this syntax tree into machine code. On the other hand, an interpreter translates code as it is being executed, line by line. Unlike a compiler, it doesn't need to generate machine code for the entire program before starting execution. However, because interpreters translate each line of code as it's executed, they tend to be slower than compilers. So, how does this translation process really work? Here's a simplified version. First, there's lexical analysis. This is where the code is broken down into tokens. Next, syntax analysis arranges these tokens into a syntax tree. Then, during semantic analysis, the syntax tree is checked for errors. Following this, the syntax tree is translated into an intermediate representation during intermediate code generation. The code then undergoes code optimization, where the intermediate representation is improved for efficiency. Finally, there's code generation, where the intermediate representation is translated into machine code. It's important to note that the specific steps in this process can vary depending on the programming language and the compiler or interpreter being used. However, the general process remains the same. To put it in perspective, let's compare compilers and interpreters. When it comes to translation, compilers translate the entire program before execution, while interpreters do it line by line. In terms of speed, compilers are generally faster. As for memory usage, compilers generally use less memory. When reporting errors, compilers can report errors in the entire program at once, but interpreters can only report errors in the current line of code. Lastly, in terms of flexibility, interpreters tend to be more flexible. So, the next time you marvel at a piece of software or an app, remember the intricate process of translation that enables computers to read and execute code. It's not magic, but it's pretty close.